Hey, what's going on, y'all? Eric Moultrie here with Code Red Conversations. Thanks for joining. What's going on, y'all? I already started talking. I guess I was jumping the gun a bit. I'm a little excited because we haven't done this in a while. Eric Moultrie here with Code Red Conversations. Thanks for joining me today, y'all. You see, I have somewhat of a new background. I got evicted from my office. No, just kidding. My boys are in town. So, what is typically my office is their bedroom. So I'm now in my bedroom and I'm just coming to y'all and we're just going to discuss some issues. And I haven't done this in a while, so forgive me for that. Things have just been really hectic in my life when it comes to having or taking the time to go live and discuss these things. But I'm here now and we're about to jump into a few topics. Hopefully, hopefully these topics or one topic won't take too long and we'll be able to hit up all the other ones and hit them all in a fair, reasonable, and not rational, but in a balanced fashion, because there's so many different topics. I want to talk about so many different things today, and I know I can get carried on. I can get caught up in a tangent talking about any one of them because they're all pretty interesting to say the least. But I got the book arrangement behind me looking all smart. Anyway, but we're about to jump in. I'm going to jump into the first video and the first topic. So, as we all know, over these last few months, weeks, things have been so crazy here in the States when it comes to policing and what's considered good policing and what isn't. This whole defund the police movement. People have just been nuts, to be honest with you. People have been totally nuts. So there's always something worth talking about. And today, the first topic I want to hit on is this recent article here. Let me blow it up here and bring it up to the top. Police officer, I hope y'all can see that. If you're there, give me some comments in the chat so I can know y'all are here and you hear me and there's no problems. But let me pull up this article and make it a little bigger. Whoops. So we have a police officer suing the NFL over a video tweets allegedly claiming he shot black suspect because of quote unquote systemic racism. And there is such irony, but I'll get into that as we proceed into the article. A black Indianapolis police officer is suing the NFL over videos and tweets he says imply he shot and killed a suspect because of quote unquote systemic racism, which is basically the catch-all when it comes to people trying to make policing, make almost any organization, any structure look bad. They just throw racism, they just throw white supremacy on it, and they hope it sticks. Indianapolis Metro Police Department Officer DeJure Mercer filed a lawsuit in the Federal Southern District of Indiana Court Monday, Fox News reported, over video and tweets the league published last year as part of their Say Their Story campaign, which I'm very familiar with, claiming that a black man he shot and killed died because of systemic racism. The lawsuit centers around the NFL's decision to honor Drees John Reed, and we'll get into a little bit more detail as we proceed on here about Drees John Reed, one of the many individuals being honored by the players and coaches this season through the NFL's helmet decal program. According to Indianapolis police officers who spoke with the Indianapolis Star, officers observed Reed driving erratically and initiated a vehicle stop. Now, these are the details of this vehicle stop of this whole shooting. And you tell me what makes sense, if the idea that the NFL is honoring this guy makes sense or not. A sergeant for the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department eventually called off the chase because of how fast Reed was driving. But Mercer last saw Reed driving eastbound on 62nd Street before parking at a business. Both the officer and Reed left their cars and the foot pursuit began. And now I did a short video when there was a little bit of an uproar Actually, not a little bit. I think a riot ensued over this. And as typical, there was a riot ensued with little to no information. All these people had to hear was that a police officer shot a black man. That's all they knew. And they got to act in a fool as typical. Police said there was a confrontation between the two that involved an exchange of gunfire, and the officer called in the shooting at 6:16 p.m. According to the Indianapolis Star, police said the officer used his service weapon after a taser deployment was ineffective. 15 casings were recovered at the scene. Police said they believe a weapon found at the scene belonged to Reed. Reed's death sparked a series of protests in Indianapolis, as I mentioned earlier, and the NFL featured Reed as one of 87 victims of systemic racism, victims of police misconduct, and social justice heroes. So right now, what we have here, we have a suspect who just decided to act like an idiot, was speeding through the Indianapolis streets, and at the same time, he was on Facebook conducting a Facebook Live and like apologizing to his mom, and he knew it wasn't going to end well. And the police, and you can see and hear the police following him throughout the course of this video. And this is who the NFL decided. This is one of the individuals that the NFL decided to honor. Mercer, however, says that the materials the league published imply that Mercer committed occupational misconduct and even criminal acts during the May 6th encounter with Reed. Mercer being the officer, similar to that which was inflicted upon George Floyd. And if anyone has any knowledge of this situation, not even close. Not even close. And a simple research of the evidence would demonstrate that exactly what went down. But as always, these people don't care. Many of these people don't care. DeJour is a hero. DeJour Mercer is a hero. Quote, he tracked down a very dangerous criminal wanted by the police who was a threat to the citizens of Indianapolis. Mercer's attorney, Guy A. Relford, said in a statement to the media about the suit. He put his life on the line and was nearly killed in the effort. He was completely exonerated after an exhaustive investigation in the death of Mr. Reed. For NFL Enterprises, then to suggest he was involved in police or racist misconduct is totally false, defamatory, and unacceptable. What happened here has nothing to do with racism. While we support the NFL's efforts to address social justice issues, Officer Mercer is taking a stand for the many, many good cops on duty across America. He is standing up for his friends and colleagues and sending a message that before you accuse a decorated police officer of misconduct in a national campaign, you got to better get your facts straight, which I completely love. I completely love the fact that they're standing up and he is standing up and he's protecting his rights. And the craziest part about all this, let me see if I can pull this up here. Give me 1 second. Well, maybe not the craziest, but one of the craziest parts about this whole situation is, let me share this screen with y'all for a second. Come back here. Let's remove this. Let me give y'all a heads up of who all is involved in this. One second, y'all. Okay. This here is Drejon Reed and Officer Mercer. This is Officer Mercer. This is the officer that they're accusing of systemic racism. Right here. Hey, what's up, Chris? Hey, Taylor, what's going on? This is Officer Mercer right here, y'all. Black man that they're accusing of systemic racism. Now I know that nowadays that there are people. I know the whole term, the whole thing when it comes to systemic racism and this claim of whiteness and all that isn't specifically about skin color, but it just shows. This is why there was an initial. You heard a little bit about it at first, but then as time went on, you heard less and less about it. It kind of just died down. Why? It's obvious. The officer wasn't white. The officer was a black man who killed another black man. And we all know that the left and the media doesn't give a crap, could care less when black folks kill each other. They don't care one way in any way. They don't care when there are black folks who gun each other down. So that's why, and the only reason they got any kind of airplay now or anyone's talking about it is because he's suing. The officer has taken a stand and he's decided he wants to sue the NFL. So good on him. I hope he succeeds, like Taylor said right here. I'm glad he's fighting back against the misrepresentation. I totally agree. I hope that he sues them, and I hope he gets a lot of money, and maybe, just maybe, people will start waking up a little bit and realize how dumb they are when it comes down to making these blanket claims. But there's a part of me that doesn't think that's going to be the case. One, because I'm kind of pessimistic. One, I know the nature of man from a biblical perspective. And then two, three, I think that there are people who would be, even if they know that it's dumb, making these blanket statements, accusing everybody and their mom of being racist, even though they know better than that. I think a lot of people are just intimidated and they're afraid. Recently, Charles Barkley talked about how there are a lot of things that, if anyone's familiar with the NBA, and particularly Inside the NBA, the show Charles Barkley co-hosts with Kenny the Jet Smith, Shaq, and Ernie Johnson, they're really silly and they joke about a lot of silly things. And for years, Charles Barkley would laugh and joke about the women in San Antonio being really big. And it was like a running joke for years. But now he says that the people behind the scenes, his bosses, are so afraid of offending anyone that it's making him want to retire. He says he's going to stick around for 2 more years, and after that, he's going to be gone because he says he doesn't want to deal with the cancel culture trying to stifle them having a good time. They talk about basketball. They used to have a lot of fun, but now things have gotten all ultra woke, and everybody is so sensitive. And it's just this movement that we're in, this cancel culture, hyper sensitivity, this overly sensitive culture. It's just destroying everything it touches. But that's where we are. So a lot of these people who know better, who in their core know that making these assumptions that everybody and their mom is racist, a lot of these people know better, but how many of them have the heart to be able to step up and say, hey, you know what? This is dumb, or this isn't right, at the very least, and let's deal with it. But I think too few people are willing to do just that. And that's the unfortunate thing. So that's topic number 1. Let's move on here. Let's move on to the next subject here. This is a good one. This is a good video. This was a recent shooting in LA. I don't think I put this in the thumbnail for my live today. I'm not. I know I wanted to. I think I had it in earlier, and I might have removed it. I don't know, but I want to show this one. This one is pretty interesting, and this could evoke a good discussion. So let's share this, and I'll get to the most controversial one at the end, because that's what I really want to hit on. There's the officer who, the last one I'll do, time permitting, is the officer who conducted the pit maneuver or who rammed the pregnant lady. I really want to talk about that. And I know I may get a little pushback on my perspective, but we'll see. It should be kind of interesting. All right, let me pull up this next video. Let me share this audio. Okay, here we go. Let me see. All right, let me make that full screen for y'all or bigger. All right. LAPD, watch this whole video. It's only about 1 minute and 16 seconds. And give me your thoughts in the comments. Dude intentionally rams the officer.
Hey, put your hands out! Put your hands out! Put it down! Put it down! Officer, shots fired. Whoa! Put your hands up! Put it down! Put it down! Put it down! Oh, you got cover? You good? You put it up? All right. Yeah. Hey, let me see your hands.
It happened pretty quickly. Let me back it up a little bit, y'all. And we'll read some of the details, okay? This guy was in a pursuit. Police were after him. We'll go through the comments or the video details, and we'll get exactly what went down, what initiated this entire pursuit and shooting. But let's watch it one more time. I'll slow it down here and there, and I'll comment. So clearly the police are after this guy. He's coming to a stop right here. He intentionally just backs his vehicle up into the police. And then look at what's on the back of his window. Kill me, remain a slave to his game forever. Like, I don't even know what that means. He says on the count of 3, he's got his hand behind his back, y'all. He has his hand behind his back. He rams a police officer, gets out of his vehicle. Cops are giving him verbal commands to get his hands up. He keeps his hands behind his back, and then he starts counting down. Listen.
Put down! Put down! Put down!
And they shoot him. He comes out with a piece of paper, but the cops shoot him. Now, I'd like to know what y'all think about this. I'd like to know what y'all think. Do you think that it was a justified shooting, or do you think it was a bad shooting? Put them in the comments below or in the chat, depending on when you're watching this video. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this incident. And I've heard people try to have a debate on this, and to me, there's no debate. There's not a debate whatsoever. The officer gave him commands to get his hands up. I agree with you, Ray. Looks like suicide by cop. And we'll get to the details, like I said, in a second. But you have an individual who intentionally backs into a police officer's vehicle. And then he jumps out, and he's got his hands hidden. Now, some people were calling this shooting unjustified. So let me ask, and if anyone here is considering that or believes that to be the case, let me ask you a question. What should the officer do? Knowing the general rule when it comes to body mechanics and action and reaction time, knowing that you will always be behind, that the officer's response will never be as fast as the initial action of the suspect, he knows exactly what he has in his hand, the suspect. The officer has no clue whatsoever. He has his hands hidden, ignoring the officer's commands, and then he pulls something out real fast and points it at the officer. and he ends up getting shot. Should the officer wait? Because if you know, once again, if you know anything about time, action and reaction time, you'll understand that that suspect would easily be able to get 3, 4, maybe or plus rounds off on that officer if he had just pulled his hands out and just started shooting. The officer, if the officer is, if there was a policy or a law that said that the officer had to wait in order to see the weapon, to see whether what was in his hand, it's a 50-50 shot, or who knows what the number is, that the suspect has a weapon in his hand after violently confronting the officer. So my question is just doesn't make any sense for the officer to have to wait to identify a possible shooting or not. I think it was in LA, brother. Yeah, I think the shooting was in LA. So I just want folks out there to consider the odds or consider the options if you are the officer on that call. I mean, we're all sitting back. None of us are in that situation, and many people make judgments as to what the officer should and shouldn't do. But if you're the one there on that call, you have next to no cover, next to no protection whatsoever. Do you think it would be a good thing to have to wait in order to identify what's in the suspect's hands before you fire? Because are you willing to put your life on the line? Do you think that officer should risk putting his own life on the line potentially? Because what happens if that suspect pulls out a gun and then he fires? The officer first has to identify what's in his hand. He has to make a reaction. He has to respond appropriately, weapon or no weapon. And you're talking about the way the body works. He has to get a shot in. He has to pull the trigger. Man, he could have already a few rounds dumped into his stomach, dumped into his head, for all we know, by that time. So I think this shooting was totally justified. That fool of a suspect put himself in a position to get gunned down by the cops. Period. There's just no way getting around it. Wow is right, brother. Wow is right. He put himself in a position to get shot by the police. And as unfortunate as it is, anytime I see a fellow image bearer of God getting shot, there comes a time where there's a biblical verse that goes, you reap what you sow. You put yourself in that position, then you get what you have coming. And if you want to challenge the authority that is, as far as we know, was rightfully conducting their job, then you get what you have coming. Sucks, it's sad, but let's read a little bit of the details here. I hope y'all can see that. Let me make that a little bigger. All right, 1 second. There we go. I'll read it. But anyway, LA, California, on April 24, 2021, around 2:35 p.m., LAPD Hollywood Patrol Division officers were westbound on Sunset Boulevard responding to a radio call with the lights and sirens of their police vehicles activated. As they approached Fairfax Avenue, they moved into the left turn lane. A 2012 Hyundai Sonata pulled in front of them and stopped. The driver of the vehicle, later identified as 34-year-old Richard Solitro, drove in reverse and struck the front of the police vehicle. It sounds as if they were on a different call and then he just got in the way. I don't know. Solitro exited his vehicle wearing body armor. Listen up. Wearing body armor and concealed his right hand in the small of his back. After counting to 3, Solitro removed his right hand from behind his back and raised it in the direction of the officers, resulting in an OIS, or officer-involved shooting. Solitro was struck by gunfire. The LA Fire Department responded and determined Solitro deceased at the scene. There was no weapon found in the vicinity of Solitro. No officers were injured during the incident. So he's wearing body armor. What does that tell y'all? Comment down below. What do you think? Dude came to this call and clearly he had some intentions. If he's wearing body armor, he confronted the police. I'm thinking he was hoping to get shot and probably get paid, but it didn't quite work out the way he wanted. So I don't know, man. You're dealing with, like I said, clearly you're dealing with somebody who wasn't bright. And he probably got shot in the head, throat, maybe in the leg, bled out. I'm not sure of the details. But it's just wild. That's all I can say. Just crazy. Just crazy. But we're in such a sad place as a society when it comes to police interactions that I'm sure there's somebody out there who thinks that he was justified in doing what he did because the police are just so bad. I mean, that's the narrative that's being pushed out there. But once again, comment down below what your thoughts are on this vehicle. All right, let's move on to the next one. I thought that was pretty cut and dry. But, this one here, this is a multi-layered portion of this, of my live today. And probably the most important one in my mind. Let me share the screen. All right. Yeah, this is going to be a multi-part here, because not multi-part, but I'm going to be sharing a few screens with y'all to address this issue. Let's get to this here. Let's see the title of this. Liberal newspaper won't print description of black male suspect in mass shooting because it could be quote unquote harmful in perpetuating stereotypes. One of the main things that I say when it comes down to this entire police brutality narrative, the police are bad and they need to be defunded, BLM complaining about them, which has been repeated enough times, so many times, where the average citizen, many, unfortunately, average everyday citizens just believe the hype. They don't. It's not even allowed to be questioned anymore. They just assume it to be true. But one thing that I consistently say is that who's feeding us the information, and do they have an agenda? And I would argue that they absolutely do. They absolutely have an agenda. The vast majority of news agencies, news outlets, whether it be your mainstream media, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, and not even mentioning the local jurisdictions, the local news outlets. Now, you're more likely to get truth out of a lot of these local areas than other places, but not necessarily. Not necessarily. Not in every situation. But if the individuals who are feeding you this information have an agenda, how balanced is the information that you are getting? That's the question that I have for anyone who has a mind open enough to listen. The Austin American-Statesman, a liberal-leaning news outlet in Texas, published an article on the mass shooting that happened early Saturday morning, but refused to print the police descriptions of the at-large black male suspect. I'm going to read some of this here. At least 14 victims were injured. Let me see the date of this. June 12th. If I'm somewhere around June 12th. Scroll up again. Yes, June 12th. At least 14 victims were injured. One suspect, described by local law enforcement as a slim black male with dreadlocks, escaped the scene. The Austin American-Statesman is not including the police description as it is too vague. This is a quote. As it is too vague at this time to be useful in identifying the shooter, and such publication could be harmful in perpetuating stereotypes. The editor's note reads at the bottom of the article, and there's a link to it, adding that reporting will be updated if more detailed information is released to the public. So it's too vague, and it could be harmful in perpetuating stereotypes. Forget the fact that there's a suspect out there who just shot 14 people, just shot 14 people. So you ignore that just because you're worried about offending somebody. This is idiotic. This is so freaking stupid, and it pisses me off, but this is where we are as a society. And yet you got people out there who just assume that this liberal media, which pretty much dominates the vast majority of media outlets out there, especially the ones that get any type of large scale attention. This is the crap that they put out. This is how they think. And I'm going to show you that this isn't an isolated incident. That's why I said that this segment of this discussion, of this live, is going to be pretty detailed, because I'm going to demonstrate that this is not an isolated incident. You need to understand that. You need to understand that the people in charge are basically deciding what information that you hear. So as a result of that, you get that foolish comment by Joe Biden that white supremacy and all this other stuff is like the biggest problem here in our country. And it is not. And that these racist organizations and extremist groups are big. They are not. The extremist group that's the biggest problem. What group was responsible for the most damage and tied to the most lost lives last year nationwide here in America? It wasn't. You can pile up all the white supremacist groups you can think of, the Klan, various skinhead sects and organizations, and you will see that the number of damage and harm that they cause pales in comparison to what Black Lives Matter did last year with the riots nationwide. Pales in comparison. Nearly $2 billion in damage, roughly around 24 lives lost as a result of those riots last year, or that were considered to be tied to it. And you don't have any large scale. I mean, people are still railing in about January 6th. And I'm not trying to minimize what went down there, but January 6th pales in comparison to what happened post George Floyd across our country. How many cops were injured? How many cops shot? We had an officer here in Las Vegas shot in the head. He'll never be the same. Never be the same again. It's insane. But yeah, we're supposed to consider this to be the biggest problem. And people believe it because, once again, it's a mantra that gets repeated over and over again. But there is no hard data, no hard evidence to prove that. None whatsoever. It's insane. And forgive me, y'all, I'm getting off on a tangent, but this really gets me going. It really angers me how we are being manipulated. And oftentimes we allow ourselves to be manipulated. Liberal newspaper Austin at Statesman says it refuses to print the description of the mass shooting suspect for ideological reasons. The at-large suspect is described by police as a black slim male with dreadlocks who wore a black shirt. The shocking, and imagine if this guy, it was a white dude. That would have been the first thing that they led with. White man shoots large gathering, shoots 14 people. White male suspect, because that fits the narrative completely. Whites are responsible for the most mass shootings. At least that's what they say. Typically, they ignore drive-by shootings. They don't talk about those. That statistic is often kept outside of that whole mass shooting argument or discussion. But I won't get into that right now. The shocking mass shooting incident, one of unfortunately many in recent history, occurred at approximately 1:30 a.m. on Saturday morning, right on Austin's storied 6th Street in the 400 block, which is the heart of its entertainment district. And then you couple that with, we're talking about Austin, Texas. We're talking about a city that pushed to defund the police. And what do we see nationwide with all of these cities who have chosen to defund the police? You see the same thing. You see crime going up, shootings, beatings, homicide rate going up in all of these cities. I'm pretty sure I would say nearly every one of them. I don't think that there's a city that didn't push to defund that didn't push the defund the police, that didn't see a spike in crime. So, I mean, what else do you need to know? As of this writing, 2 of the 14 people wounded are still in critical condition, and all of them were sent to the hospital with injuries ranging from moderate to critical. This does appear to be an isolated incident between 2 parties. Chief Joseph Chacon said, Austin police have arrested 1 man in connection with the overnight shooting. The USA Today reported the arrest was made by the local police department and the Lone Star Fugitive Task Force. Crazy, y'all. But once again, as I said, I want to show y'all that this is not an isolated incident. And this is from one of these articles I'm pulling up is from a few years ago. Where's this at here? Oh, this one here is from okay, let me do this one here. Let me show y'all this one. Share with y'all this one here. This is from 2017, and this is the Bay Area Rapid Transit, the BART. Okay. See if this is on screen. Okay, perfect. Bay Area Rapid Transit withholding surveillance video of crime to avoid what? Anyone? Stereotypes. Let me read it again. BART withholding surveillance videos of crime to avoid stereotypes. So they have video of suspects who are committing crimes, but they're more concerned with not promoting quote unquote stereotypes than protecting their riders. They're more concerned with that. Oh, let me read a little bit of this. I heard about this a few years back and it just blew my mind, but it shouldn't have. In the last 3 months, there have been at least 4, this is 17, so 4 years ago. In the last 3 months, there have been at least 3 robberies on the BART involving groups of teens. Quote, I think people are genuinely concerned. They are fearful, and the stories that have come out about the recent attacks, the assaults, the thefts, said Deborah Allen, who is a member of the BART board of directors. We scroll down. Let me get to the bottom of this article here, and let me talk about what's actually said. Memo. This is a memo here. Okay, one of the reasons why they said that they wouldn't share it was because there were some juveniles on board. And I get that. I totally understand the fact that they don't want to give out information from juveniles. Totally makes sense. Okay, let me read this right here. Hamill responded, I think he works for the BART. If we were to regularly feed the news media videos of crimes on our system that involve minority suspects, particularly when they are minors, we would certainly face questions as to why we are sensationalizing relatively minor crimes and perpetuating false stereotypes in the process. So someone getting robbed or assaulted, battered, beaten is relatively minor. I guess that's a matter of perspective. When you don't ride and you don't depend on that means of transportation, or your mom isn't a victim, or your kid or your wife isn't a victim, or your husband or one of your loved ones, I guess it's a matter of perspective. But these people, I'm telling you, let me keep reading. Where was I? And added her opinion of the media. My view is that the media's real interest in this video of youth phone snatching incidents isn't the desire for transparency, but rather the pursuit of ratings. They know the video of these events will drive clicks to their website and views to their programs because people are motivated by fear. Allen says scared passengers aren't being unreasonable. Being on BART train is a vulnerable position. So yeah, there's nothing unreasonable about the idea that you're concerned over what could happen if you're on one of these train lines. But yet somehow somebody considers that unreasonable because, again, another media outlet, and typically in these leftist cities, San Francisco, we had the last one was from uh, uh, Austin, Texas. That's basically what you get. So, but before I go, let me share one more with y'all. One more on this topic. Just so y'all know, I ain't, and maybe I'm just tripping over here. I don't think so, but hey, I could be a little biased. I shared this in a live I was doing with another friend not that long ago, but I also found this one quite interesting as well. From Real Clear Politics, this one actually came from the Crime Research and Crime Prevention Research Center. And let me recommend y'all this website, especially if you are concerned about our Second Amendment rights when it comes to possession of firearms. John Lott is a wealth of knowledge in the area of Second Amendment rights, and he put together this organization to do some research on shootings, and he's delved into different topics. He goes as far as what was whether a lot of these places where mass shootings take place, whether they were gun-free zones or not. He looks at the claim that here in America that we are the top, that you hear oftentimes that nationwide there's no established nation like the United States when it comes to the amount of gun violence. He totally debunks that argument, and he has a ton of books. I'll share some as time, especially if you follow me on Facebook. I'll share some on my personal Facebook page, Eric Muldrow, or I'll share them on Code Red Conversations. The dude is a wealth of knowledge. But he had this book right here, or this article he posted, goes into detail. It says, selective media reporting further fuels our racial divide. And this is what I want to get into here. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of this article, and this is very important. He said, research conducted by the Crime Prevention Research Center, of which he is president, John Lott, on all police shootings from 2013 to 2015, found that while local news coverage will often mention the race of the officer and the suspect, the national coverage is much more selective. While the evidence indicates that black officers are no less likely to shoot suspects than whites, I'll repeat that one more time. While the evidence indicates that black officers are no less likely to shoot suspects than white officers, local news coverage of black officers shooting black suspects gets picked up by national news in just 9% of cases. And this is from a 2-3 year period, 13, 14, and 15. So if a black officer shoots a black suspect, you hear about it typically 9% of the time. By contrast, he says, 38% of the cases in which local news reported on a white officer shooting a black suspect gets national coverage. 38% as compared to 9%. So basically, you are 4 times more likely to have the news outlets report the fact that a white officer shot a black suspect. 4 times. And yet we wonder why we hear about it all the time. Because the people in charge, these media entities, are intentionally withholding information from you, me, the citizen. Intentionally withholding information from us. I was supposed to do a video or do a class with a friend of mine, a lady I used to work with in the county jail, and she wanted me to help teach a class about police interactions and things like that. But I was voted on by the people in charge as they really didn't want me they didn't think I fit in. Basically because I didn't buy into the media narrative that the cops are out there just indiscriminately gunning down black folks. I didn't buy into it. And when I was challenged on it, I stood my ground and I made my case. And even though I was totally unaware that it was going to turn into that, but I was basically just in there to give them the perspective. I was surrounded by a bunch of civilians. I think there might have been 2 other officers in there. No one who worked patrol, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But my background, defense, having worked in law enforcement for over 20 years, defensive tactics instructor, firearms instructor, active shooter response instructor, the fact that I've been doing code red conversations for the last 3 years, I've spoken across the country and have been afforded the opportunity to speak in different cities and states on these issues of police shootings, done a massive amount of research. That was completely irrelevant. And the fact that I was going to go in there and give these young men, these young women, some ammunition, some data to keep themselves safe, they didn't want that because I didn't fall in line with their narrative. The predominant mainstream media narrative, liberal narrative, that the police are hunting down, indiscriminately shooting black folks. But it is what it is, because now I've been blessed with a tremendous amount of opportunities to speak on different levels. So there's always a silver lining when it comes down to issues like that. But we are told, and this is from 2013 to 2015. We're not even talking about like nowadays, when there's more talk, when BLM has been accepted by a large group of our society. I can only imagine what the numbers are right now. Only imagine. But anyway, so don't go in ignorantly, don't go in blindly, assuming that hey, Will, what's going on, brother? Thank you. Keep speaking truth. Man, as long as the Lord gives me breath to speak, I will keep addressing the reality of these issues, because I feel as if they need to be heard. We are a God-ordained institution when it comes down to the government, and the fact that you have people who act on behalf, even though I know there are problems there. Anybody that follows me any length of time knows how I feel about bad cops, knows how I feel about bad policing. And after I'm done with this segment here, which I'm about to wrap up, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that very topic. I am extremely passionate about removing bad cops from the system, because they make everyone look bad. They make the good cops look bad. There are some cops who are afraid to speak out on these issues because they don't want to ruffle any feathers, just like there are people in various segments of society who do the exact same thing. There are people who work in hospitals, know there are doctors and nurses who take shortcuts. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely, Will. Romans 13, 100%. 100%. They know that there are people out there that are in various fields who take shortcuts, potentially when someone's life could be on the line. If you work in construction, if you work in the medical field, if you work in the food industry, it could easily be the same thing. Transportation, driving, various industries, you could be dealing with the same problem. And just like in the hood at times, and it's sad, you have people out there who don't want to speak up when there are issues, when there are clear issues. You have people who work in law enforcement who are afraid to speak up and address the problems of bad police officers. But by God's grace, that hasn't been me. I've been known to speak my mind on a consistent basis when it comes to law enforcement, when it comes to a bad police officer. I've been known to check them or let our supervisors know that we got people out here who are no good. And so I encourage that. I encourage more officers to speak up, state their case, speak their mind. If you see something bad happening, say something about it, because those bad officers, those bad seeds, those bad eggs, they make all of y'all who are still out there. I'm retired. They make all of y'all who are still out there pushing the black and white, working in the jails, working in the courthouses, wherever you may be, in any form of in the prisons, working in any type of law enforcement capacity. When you have people out there who are deceptive, you have people out there who skirt and who abuse inmates, suspects, citizens, authorities. They need to be brought to light. It needs to be brought to light, and you need to say something, because I know there's probably somebody who's going to watch this video who knows of an incident that's probably happening right now in their lives, but they don't want to ruffle any feathers. You need to speak up. You have to. But all right, last video, last segment. And like I said, this is probably the most controversial one here. Not controversial to me personally, but I think it's pretty cut and dry. But there may be some out there who might disagree with me. But let's get this video up and running as I share the screen. Let me know if everything sounds good out there, y'all. This is the dash cam video. Whoops. This is the dash cam video of the pregnant woman who got pitted. And the pit maneuver is a police immobilization technique where a officer, if you're dealing, and typically if you're dealing with a person who might be threatening to harm someone or driving irresponsibly, you can hit their vehicle in the right way and cause it to spin out, and it basically shuts down. You immobilize them. So this was an incident, if I'm not mistaken, that took place a year ago, but just recently received national attention. Let me post this real quick. From Will. Brother Eric, only the truth changes the heart and mind, setting people free. Free indeed. Amen, brother. Amen. I appreciate that. Good reminder. Good reminder. So let me read a little bit about this. Let me read some of the details in this. And hopefully y'all can see this. Looks like you can. This took place in Jacksonville, Arkansas. And again, I'm pretty sure this took place in 2020. Arkansas State Police Department released dash cam footage of an incident where a pregnant woman who ignored officer ends upside down after pit maneuver. Now pay attention to the speed and everything that went down and what was the exact violation that took place, which resulted in the officer making the decision to use the pit maneuver on her. Video shows an Arkansas State police officer executing a pit precision immobilization technique. Different names, I guess. That's how I remember it. Maneuver against a pregnant driver during a traffic stop. Now, to the officers, her being pregnant only came out later on. Obviously, the officer wouldn't be aware of that, but it still doesn't justify his actions. So make sure you hear me on that. I'm not trying to justify what he did. Causing her car to spin out and flip against a concrete median. The woman inside the vehicle is now suing the officer, alleging he negligently used deadly force during the incident. The woman was pregnant at the time, as they keep repeating, but did not lose her daughter. Thank the Lord for that, as she feared she might. The officer claimed he attempted to pull her over for speeding since she was going 84 miles an hour despite a speed limit of 70, at which point she accelerated. The woman said she was searching for a safe place to stop on the highway, which had a reduced shoulder, meaning it wasn't at a large enough area to stop. That's her statement. Dashcam video shows the woman's vehicle slowing down to, hear this, 60 miles per hour and turning on her hazard lights as she appeared to look for a place to stop. After the crash, the officer asked her, "Why didn't you stop?" She replied, "Because I didn't feel it was safe." And the officer said, "Well, this is where you ended up." So let's just jump into the video here. And once again, comment, let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm not going to show the whole video, but I'm going to show a little bit of the dialogue after the incident took place. Remember, she was traveling at 84, roughly. When the officer came in contact with her, it said that she slowed down to 60 miles an hour. And we'll go on from there. No, I did read somewhere that if you are signaled to pull over by a police officer in the state of Arkansas, that you are told to turn on your hazards and slow down. Now, I consistently tell people you find a safe place to stop as soon as possible. That's what I've taught people. That's what I will continue to teach people. And I wonder if I'm the officer, would I assume that she's attempting to flee when she slows down and she turns on her hazards? These are just some of the things that I don't think I would have personally. Now, I wasn't there, but I don't think I would have assumed we're on a highway at night, a highway. Cars driving by 70 miles an hour, 80 plus at times. I don't think I would have made the quick assumption that she was trying to get away when she slowed down and had her hazards on. But let's proceed with the video.
South 14 764 Young Zebra 764 Twilight Zebra. Yeah, bring an SUV about 74. I'll let you know here in a second.
No exits have come up yet, if you notice. No exits yet.
Did they hit the inside wall? They roll over. Give me EMS started. Got the number 3 on the shutdown.
He's pretty calm about it.
Can you get out? Come on out. Come out this way, right here. Come out this side. Can you come out? Yeah, come on in. Can you get out the passenger door? Can you move it? Watch your head. Why didn't you stop? Well, this is where we ended up. Watch your head. Come out this way. I got plenty of room right here. Are you on in the vehicle? Okay. Well, man, we've got to pull over when we stop. It doesn't matter now. Come on out. I got an ambulance coming for you.
Now, I remember during the incident where the lieutenant, right, let me pull up some of these comments here real quick. The cop is supposed to get clearance before operating a pit maneuver. He never got permission. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what jurisdiction he's in. I'm not sure what. Maybe they have a different rule. I don't know, but you could be 100% right. My concern, or one of my many concerns with this whole thing, was it wasn't. Did she pose a deadly threat? Because here in Las Vegas, when we're talking about using the pit maneuver, you can use it at almost any time. But if you're going, if I'm not mistaken, 40 miles an hour or over 40 miles an hour, it needs to be a deadly force situation. So you need to be in a situation where the suspect is threatening deadly force. Was she driving erratically, putting other citizens at risk? At no point did I see that. Was that demonstrated to me? At no point was that demonstrated to me. She's driving 84. She slows down to 60, puts her flashes on, and she's driving straight down. I think it's a long stretch to jump to the assumption that she was about to threaten someone's life. I think it's a huge stretch to jump to that. And unfortunately, this is what happened. But back to what I was saying about the lieutenant. I remember saying he was the Army, the like black Latino lieutenant who got pulled over and he wouldn't stop. He drove a few miles. You're talking about on a more of a main street, like on a roadway. Yeah, I know it was late at night, but I was upset at him not responding, not complying, because these officers repeatedly gave him verbal commands to get out of the vehicle. And all he kept saying was, what's going on? And he wouldn't let them open the door. And in my personal opinion, he escalated that matter. In this one, I felt, because I know how I feel as a cop stopping people on the highway. I would only do it if I had no choice and it was an emergency situation. But you didn't see me on the road, on the highway, stopping people. Oh, no. That wasn't how I got down. I would get on my loudspeaker and tell them to exit off the highway and let them exit, and then I pull them over. That's what I've done multiple times, multiple occasions. But that's the way I think. So I'm sympathetic to her saying that she didn't think it was safe. And then later on in the video, she said she's going to say, I didn't think it was safe for you. She said she actually was concerned about the officer's safety. That's why she didn't pull over. Now, would he know that going in? No. But to have someone driving 60 miles an hour and you pit them out over just based on the fact that they wouldn't stop, that's the only evidence that you have? That's your only argument? That's just ridiculous to me. She could have been killed. Yeah, very easily. Very easily been killed. I think it was very irresponsible on his part. Very irresponsible. Using that much force on someone just because they wouldn't stop on a highway doesn't make sense. Looks like she was a regular speeding driver. Yep, who followed the rules in her state regarding a traffic stop. Spot on. Spot on. That's what the law says. You're supposed to turn the flashers on when you're about to be pulled over. She did it. And yeah, I've wondered that also. That was the first thing that popped into my head. You get close, you get on that loudspeaker, and trust me, that thing is loud. You say, ma'am, I need you to pull over right now. I think she would have pulled over. I could be wrong. And as far as I know, there was no other crime associated with this. This was purely a traffic violation. Excuse me. It wasn't a robbery or sexual assault or shooting suspect or anything like that. It wasn't a stolen vehicle. It was merely a traffic violation. And he used that excessive force. So I hope that this gets more media attention. And if this is the way that officer gets down, I think that's scary. Now, does he necessarily need to be fired? I think it's an option. I think it's a possibility. I think it should be greatly considered because he used too much force, far too much force on what should have been a minor traffic incident. And from what I heard, I'm not sure exactly how factual this is. Someone shared it with me when I was discussing it. They said that she was 30 minutes away from an exit. I just think in my mind, in the back of my head, I would have been like, you know what, there may be more going on here. Maybe she's waiting for an exit. So it's my job to let her know what I'm thinking. If I need her to stop right now, it's my job to let her know. I've had people I went to pull over who kept on driving. And you also at times have to take into consideration people freak out when they come in contact with the police. And sometimes you have to have the cooler head. You have to be the one who says, you know what, let's reconsider this. Get on the loudspeaker, give them a command. I've had people stop in the middle of an intersection before. And I'm like, ma'am, sir, you need to keep driving, pull through the intersection, pull over as soon as possible, but out of the middle of the roadway. And then when you're talking to them, they're like, I've never been pulled over before. And they freak out. So it's up to the officer to cool things down. That's what I say. It's up to the officer to cool things down. But I'd love to know what y'all think. So comment down below. Comment in the chat. Continue to do so. Oh, wait a minute. I got one more here. Double Z. Why not just mail a citation? It was a speeding ticket. Good question. Good question. Or just consider waiting. Maybe she's waiting for the exit. I don't know. I mean, and 84 in I don't know if it was a 60 or 70 mile on the roadway. I'm not sure what it was, but that's really, when you think about it on the highway, that's really not that unusual. It's not like she was driving 100 miles an hour, 120 miles an hour. This was just too much. But sometimes you just have some of those overzealous cops out there. And from what I hear, nothing happened to him. The only reason that anybody reported on this was because the dash cam video became available and she's suing them. Excuse me. So, but I'd love to know what y'all think about this whole incident. Taylor said, yeah, she thinks it was 70 miles an hour. That's what I believe too. But yeah, that's it for today, y'all. I appreciate y'all stopping by, joining me. Do me a favor before you go. If you want to pick up one of my new t-shirts, Unwoke to the World, see if you can see the back. Whoops. Oh, let me see. I don't want to tear nothing up. It says a lot. I don't know if you can see that. Unwoke to the World, Alive in Christ. That's Ephesians chapter 2. Unwoke to the World, Alive in Christ. Go to coderedconversations.com/shop. Code Red Conversations, my website, and go to the shop, and you can pick up one of my new t-shirts, Unwoke to the World, Alive, on the back, Alive in Christ. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 5. It's my latest t-shirt. It comes in white, and it's also, there's a black one available. I think I have one around here. Hold on one second. Is this it? Nope. Wait. Sorry, y'all. Here we go. Here we go. Here's the black one. Unwoke to the World. Just slang. Go with it. Just have a little fun with it. Unwoke to the World. Alive in Christ. And it says, but God, being rich in mercy because of his great love, of the great love which he loved us, even when we were dead in our trespasses, made us alive together with Christ. Ephesians 2, chapter 4 through 5. So go out and pick up one at coderedconversations.com/shop and support what it is that I'm trying to do here with Code Red Conversations. I want more people to hear the content that I'm bringing when I'm discussing these issues in relation to policing. Make sure you hit up coderedconversations.com. Go to my YouTube channel. Click the like and subscribe. We are steadily growing, y'all. So I appreciate all of y'all that have been out there who watch my content, who watch my videos, who support what it is I'm trying to do. we just hit 1,600 subscribers, 1,000 on Instagram. I'm excited. Over 3,000 on Facebook. So I'm pretty pumped up about it. Let's keep the word out there. I know there are other people out there who are talking about these issues when it comes to police. The narrative that's being pushed out there is this extremely anti-police narrative, and I'm here to push back against it. That's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do. So please do me a favor. Make sure you go check out the website, pick up a t-shirt, or you can pick up one of the Code Red Conversations t-shirts. Again, doing all this stuff, it isn't free. When I'm doing the video editing and posting content and creating content, and running the website. So whatever you can do in any way, shape, or form that you can support what it is that I'm trying to do here, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for joining me. In the meantime, as always, stay safe, God bless, and make sure you join the conversation. I'm out.